Well, continuing our conversation about balls, Paul, where did we leave
Are we
off?
talking about the Balls of Fury thing? Can we say this all over again?
That is what she said.
That
Yes.
seems like a fair lead up. Yeah.
Good Lord. Oh, man.
Welcome to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
George.
Falling.
Are you guys talking hot balls?
No, not hot balls.
We'll save the balls until we get through the intro. How's that? Okay.
Okay.
All right,
This is our Thursday webcast. Throughout the quarantine, we're doing our webcast every Monday and Thursday right here on our YouTube channel. Check us out at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We also do a podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all those other places you get your podcast from. We have social media pages under the names A Nice Place to Brew and Nice Place to Brew, and a website at www.aniceplacetobrew.com. This is not usually part of our intro, but it absolutely should be. We are a group of homebrewers between Illinois and Virginia, and we like talking about all things beer and beer making, and that's what we do here on the webcast. How are you this evening, gentlemen?
Good. How are you?
Good. What is everybody drinking?
Actually, I have a little thing. I'm drinking Asteroid Crash from On Tour, which just delivered to my house.
Yes, our good friend Dave.
Their West Coast IPA, which was really good. And I went to Blue Island and got that release that they were talking about when we talked to Brian last time. Those lagers. Those are being chilled right now. But then I just found this today. I think you guys would find interesting. Zombie Dust. In a can.
Zombie Dust. All right.
In a can.
I was going to say, I've never seen that in a can before.
Yeah.
It just got released like this week. And then I went to my local pub, which you guys know is my local pub, Chicago Street. They had it in cans already today. I had to go get some dinner. I was hungry.
Nice.
And
nice.
So they had that. I had to show the can online for everybody.
Okay. What's the ABV on Zombie Dust? It's up there, isn't it?
Mid-6s.
Oh, I thought it was higher.
It doesn't say on the can. I'm actually trying to look. It doesn't say. I'm saying like maybe mid to high 6. I don't think it's more than 7 something. If it is.
Okay. Right on. George, what about you?
I am trying this Pullman's Brown Ale from
Yes.
Finally got a chance to try it from Flossmoor. So I'm just checking it out right now, and nice pour on it.
It's not quite within the category that we're going to talk about tonight, because we are going to talk about coffee beers in good detail tonight. The brown ale certainly brings up thoughts of coffee beer, though, just with the dark color and some of the flavor notes.
Yeah,
roasty notes. Like I was sad to see my volume of that brown ale go away, because that was a really, really good brown ale that Flossmoor made.
Yeah, it's pretty solid on that. I'll give it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about yourself, sir?
My own, my little cream corn ale.
Okay.
And I've got a story about this. I got to attend yesterday my first homebrewers meetup since the quarantine took effect.
Oh, yeah.
And it was not at the typical location. It was at somebody's house.
Okay.
Set up in a backyard. Bring your own chairs. Bring your own glasses. Keep 6 feet apart. I think we did everything right from a quarantine standpoint. And still we're able to have our tastings, talk about the things that we talk about, give reviews, give tips. I think we hit on every note that we needed to and we wanted to. So it was a great night, and good to see the guys for the first time in more than 3 months now too.
Yeah.
So,
I'm assuming that was the Emmett's group?
It was the Emmett's group, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So this beer here that I made, the cream ale that has a corn adjunct in the mash, this was part of a Emmett's group project. And the rules of the project were to use an alternate fermentable, and corn was just that for this recipe. And the
Okay.
group got to taste this beer for the first time last night, and it was a big hit. It was a
Nice.
big hit. They said it was really good, really clear, and all the flavor notes that I was trying to create, they're there.
Nice.
The and stop me if I talked about this on the webcast before. I don't think I have, but if I have, just stop me. The one problem that I had in brewing this beer, aside from not planning my times accordingly as far as the mash and water heating, so I had a 90-minute mash by accident, is my final gravity was high. So this beer finished at 1018,
Ooh,
and I
yeah,
just had
okay.
I had a stuck fermentation that I just couldn't get to finish off and go where it needed to. It was supposed to end at about 1012, 1013. What that's left it with is a little bit of residual sweetness that everybody was, thought was really nice. So it was not enough to drive any kind of negative review. They just said this is a really good beer.
Okay. I wonder
So
if that has to. I wonder if that's to do with the corn at all.
I don't think so. I think
okay.
There was a tip given to me, and shame on me, I should have thought of this. If you have a stuck fermentation at the level that I do, and this has happened to me for like my last 3 to 4 batches, I will get stuck between the gravities of 1020 and 1018, and just getting it pushed over that, I'm just having a bit of an issue with, which is strange because I've got clean vessels, good temperature control, all that stuff. You hit on all the major marks. So the question was asked to me, what temperature did you ferment at? I answered 64. He said, did you raise the temperature to create, just like what you would probably call a diacetyl rest? And I said, no, I didn't. I just left it on at 64 for a long period of time. And I was told that's what you should have done. You should have kicked up the temperature, and that would have been enough to probably restart the fermentation. And I'm like, yeah, that does make sense. So
yeah,
so lesson learned.
Yeah,
and just to
it
give
does
a
sound
selling
like
point
it would. Yeah.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead and finish.
No, go ahead.
This becomes a good selling point for all the homebrewers out there. Find a local homebrew club and go. And those are the circles that you get those pieces of feedback that are so important to you as a home brewer. And that was a great example of that for me.
Yeah, and if you're having trouble doing that, we kind of talked them up last time, but the AHA website has some good search tools for registered homebrew clubs that can that are in your area. So, yeah.
Be sure
Another good reason to sign up, I guess, right?
Enter the promo code Jason at checkout.
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight.
So George.
Oh.
Don't let
go ahead, Jason. I was going to say something, but go ahead. I'll bring this up later.
So tonight, the topic of tonight's conversation is going to be about coffee and beer, which we teased on the last episode. Do we have more balls conversation we need to get through before we get into the meat of tonight's topic?
Huh.
No, I mean, no.
No, I think we can.
I think we're all finished.
No, we're done with that. I don't want to get into that tonight. So
we can save that for later. Yeah.
maybe later after a couple more, I might tell it. So
all right. Okay. Fair enough. All right.
So we're talking about coffee beer.
Yes.
All right.
Who's going to start?
Have you guys had coffee beer? I have.
I did make coffee beer once. Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk
added,
about that. Okay, so what did you do?
I added brewed and then chilled coffee to the beer. And
so you did a liquid edition.
I did, yes. Towards the end of the boil, threw in a liquid edition on there, like a whirlpool, basically. Honestly, that's not my preferred method of doing that because no matter how much you add, you're going to thin out the beer when you add coffee, because coffee is a very thin type liquid.
That's a good point.
So it's not my preferred method to do it, and were I to do it again, I would probably use a different method that one of my homebrew club members used and worked really well in his beer, and I would probably suggest doing that. But Polly, what about you? How did you do your addition?
The one time I did mine, keep in mind, like I've heard many different ways. Like I've heard about like making a cold brew, adding it in the secondary for flavoring. Like I've heard about people doing that. But like the time I did a coffee beer with Eric, that was on Monday. I got some whole beans from a local roaster in Chicago that Hailstorm is using, and I got those. We crushed the beans. We soaked those beans in vanilla and what was it? New Holland beer barrel bourbon, I believe. It was like because I got it still, and like they've been swapping out like the barrels that they use for Dragon's Milk. They'll put more bourbon in them, and they'll go back and forth. So this was a barrel that had Dragon's Milk in it, and then they age their whiskey in there. So that's what I aged it in, and it was kind of funny because like I brought samples around. Everyone was like, "Is this barrel aged?" Like I told them what they did, and they got it. But it was funny because like the time I'm spending $20 for a pound of this. I'm making a pot of coffee to try it. Didn't like the coffee at all. Put it in my beer. It was amazing. But then there's other breweries that have great coffee stuff, and I asked them what they had, and it's something small from like their grocery store that they're getting, and I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, it doesn't take high tone gourmet coffee to put good coffee flavor in beer.
Yeah.
So, Jason, you've not done this, right?
I have not.
Okay, so the method that, and I think I talked about this either on a podcast or a previous episode, but the method that my homebrew club friend came up with or used was he actually took a muslin bag, ground some coffee grounds, took a muslin bag, and steeped it in the finished wort for, I think he said 10 minutes. So at, usual coffee steeping temperature. So essentially used a pseudo French press auto drip style method of just kind of dropping it in, let it steep, and added the coffee flavor that way. And so what that allows you to do is to utilize the liquid that's already in there, so you're not adding additional liquid. If you do cold brew or you do auto drip and then chill it kind of thing, that you're adding additional liquid to it. But what he did was he steeped it and he utilized the liquid that was already there, and that had the effect of not thinning it out as much and still allowing for that coffee flavor to come through.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really rather balanced and came through really rather well. And I think he said he only used like 4 ounces for a 5-gallon batch, something like that.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. Hold on. Give me a second, boys. Eric's trying to link in, so continue talking. I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Sure.
All right, cool. So that's what he used. And so Jason, in your looking around this week, how what techniques did you see as far as adding coffee to the beer?
So, keeping just the methods in focus for a second, the one that I saw that made the most sense is a secondary addition. I saw a number of recipes that that called for various volumes of coffee, mostly finely ground, like down to a really light powder, and throw that powder into a muslin bag and then keep that in secondary from any period between 2 days and 4 days. And
Okay.
going back to my sales pitch for the American Homebrewers Association, and this month's edition, which talks about coffee infused beer, there's 2 different coffee beer recipes that are part of this edition, and both of them call for volume additions of between 2.5 ounces and 5 ounces
Of
so
grounds?
when you think about of grounds, yes.
Grounds. Okay.
Yeah. So if you think about that as a proportion of a mash, that's obviously a very, very small portion, but that's still consistent with where you picture dark grain to be, because your dark grain is always going to be a very small ratio of your grain bill anyways. So
Yeah, and it does not take a lot for coffee.
it's the same way for if you're using like black patent malt, making a stout.
Yeah.
If you're making a 5-gallon batch, you can get that done with 8 ounces. That's it. So
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
the reason I bring that up is if anyone out there has aspirations of making a coffee beer, my suggestion would be go easy on the volumes. Don't shoot low, not high.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because coffee beers can have the same issue that other adjunct beers do, like barrel aging and things, to where the coffee flavor can overwhelm the beer flavor. And coffee is a very strong flavor, so it does not take a whole lot. So start out low, and if you make a batch and you want more coffee flavor, kick it up and go from there. So,
hey, what's up, Eric?
Hey, how you doing? I
hey,
accidentally
Eric.
deleted this week's link, was trying to get into last week, so that's why I'm late.
Okay.
I do have my coffee beer idea though. With me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Here's another thing I found, and in this, I feel like I've used this before, but I'm not totally sure. A lot of the recipes that I found for coffee-infused beer call for a mash addition of carafa. And carafa is a dark malt with levels 1, 2, and 3, which, as you go up that scale, you continue to grow the Lovabond level. But that is a malt that is said to reliably create kind of an espresso flavor in your beer. So that can be a piece of your recipe as well.
Okay. Carafa.
Yes.
Oh, we lost George.
Yeah, we did. George, Paulie,
Carafa
Eric,
1 or Carafa 2?
what's that, Paulie?
You said Carafa. Carafa
Yeah.
1 or 2?
Well,
Or 3.
Yeah,
there's 3 too.
1, 2, or 3. Yeah. Has anyone brewed with carafa before?
No.
I have. I've used Carafa 1. Like years ago, I got a magazine sent in the mail that was from Matt from Ale Song with the brewery that he was working for. And I looked at the recipe and I could get everything except for the Carafa. And it was funny because I had his number. I texted him like, hey, man, I found your recipe in this magazine. He's like, you can't get that grain. Tell me what you need. I'll send it to you. I go to the homebrew store a week later. They have it in stock. I'm like,
I was going to
all
say,
right,
I don't feel
cool.
like carafa is that difficult to find. I've seen it
I don't think
before.
it's that rare, yeah.
No, I've had no issues.
Yeah,
finding
and
it.
it can
10 years ago? Yeah, you couldn't
Carafa-
find it. At least at brewery.
Oh, okay. All right.
10 years ago, I couldn't find it. at
Carafa
brewery.
gets intense.
I know. But it's the
And
same
like,
thing
and,
as
well, and
it's just a deep bitter black malt. That's what it is. For the most
yeah,
part.
but like when I say it gets intense, the main difference between Carafa 1, 2, and 3 is the SRM. 1 is 337, 3 is 525. So like 2 grains of Carafa and you've got color, you know?
Yeah, for real.
What's carafa 3, George?
That is 525 is Carafa 3. Carafa 2 is 412.
Oh, 4. Okay,
Yeah, I just did
it.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's intense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's black patent territory there at Carafa 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I think the Black Patent I think is 600 if I remember.
I had 500 in my head. Whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
speaks for
it's also
itself. That's as
intense.
dark as
Yeah.
it gets.
Yeah. So so methodology, that's it's there's some, to kind of put a bow on this, there's some so the easiest way is to do the secondary addition of the grains, like you're talking about, Jason. When you talk about the chemistry of coffee, though, and pulling out the different flavors and aromas and everything like that, that's going to be better done at a higher temperature, which is why a lot of the recipes you'll find online and in places will have you actually pre-brew the coffee and then add it to either the primary or secondary, and add that as a liquid addition. Because if you're adding it as a secondary, you're not going to be able to steep the coffee at a temperature that is going to be, suitable to really pull out all those different aromas. It's basically a mini mash, in your coffee maker.
It's funny you should mention that. I found a recipe online that called for both. Like they did simultaneously.
Okay.
They did a hot coffee edition and a cold coffee edition. And they thought, that they would just get the best of both worlds out of that. Now we can't sample the beer
how
and
well
find
that
out
worked.
how that worked. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's, but then, going back to like the reason why you would do this, I mean, without being too fairly obvious, it's you want to get that coffee flavor into your beer. And the flavor you want to get is a very kind of bitter, roasty kind of flavor. So what I have seen a lot of people trending towards, and I'm not sure if the Zymergy kind of went this direction or not, but is a much more malt forward or higher final gravity. So a little bit more of a sweeter, like a milk stout versus a dry stout kind of situation in a lot of cases, to kind of balance the notes from the coffee. And allow still allow the characteristic of the beer to come through. Is that kind of what you guys have seen as well?
Yes.
Yeah, to a higher gravity
yes.
beer, like a 1100 or something like that.
Yeah, well, higher gravity a lot of times, yes, a higher gravity meaning a higher alcohol, but also a higher final gravity is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, all the sweetness and the flavor still coming from the higher gravity that didn't ferment out.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I think the reason for that is because there will be enough flavor left over to balance out those coffee notes, which can be really bitter and a little off-putting if there's nothing there to counterbalance it.
Right.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
Let's take a step back here. What kind of coffee does everybody like?
I personally don't drink coffee.
Oh, you don't? Okay, all right.
I don't. Here's the funny thing. I have to say this to tell everybody this. I don't drink coffee and I don't drink bourbon, but I love both of them in desserts or in beer.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So you're a big tiramisu fan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tiramisu all the way.
Coffee at home, to me, I'll buy whatever's on sale. But if I'm out and about, come to the big two, Dunkin' or Starbucks, I like Dunkin' more. I have so many friends that work for Starbucks. I still go there because I go to see my friends at work. So if that makes any kind of sense, I would honestly think Starbucks coffee would be better in beer than Dunkin'. But drinking it, I would rather drink Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Should that be a little on the show experiment?
Well,
you couldn't. Yeah, no, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. You couldn't just take a splash of coffee and a splash of beer, put them together, and have that
right?
be a.
No.
Well, I mean, you say that. You say that, except there is such a thing as beer cocktails, and they're becoming more popular. And
That's
you know,
wow. Okay,
and
that's an interesting point. Okay.
using a shot of beer in like a car bomb situation, a shot of coffee rather, as a car bomb situation, is becoming more popular.
No, you say that, George. I have the local pub that I go to all the time, Chicago Street.
Mhm.
An old friend of the bar passed away years ago. When he would make Bloody Marys, he'd put a little shot of Guinness in his Bloody Mary every
Ooh,
time.
that
Which
sounds good.
after after he passed away, that's the norm now. Like if you get in a Bloody Mary from Chicago Street, there's gonna be a shot of Guinness in there
Shot of Guinness.
in the middle of it.
All right.
Nice.
All right. So you asked, I mean, for me, if you ask me what kind of beer, I mean, what kind of coffee I like, it's not so much a brand as much as a style. I'm a big fan of the Central American beans. My preferred one actually comes from Costa Rica, and I like the darker blends of coffee. What's called second crack in coffee roasting terms. And the reason that I prefer that is I tend to drink a lot of coffee when I do. So kind of counterintuitively, the darker the bean, the less caffeine it has. And the darker the bean, the less acid it has. So that's where I tend to go when I tend to drink coffee. And from what I can tell, that is actually a little bit more because of the acid that addition, the acid content is lower in darker beers. That tends to be a little bit more of a go-to as an addition for darker coffee. See you squinting at me. Less acid in darker coffee. That tends to be a style that's popular for beer as well. So you don't get as much of that coffee acid in the beer.
But let me ask you this, George, because it's darker. Is it more bitter? Is it more like bitter, roasty, like almost burnt flavor in the coffee?
So it can be. That's why I prefer to have mine go to like that second crack. So for some reason, coffee people can't use normal terms. And so really, really dark coffee is what's called full city. And the really, really dark stuff, or what's sometimes called extra dark, that's where it really turns from roasty to more bitter. And there are people who really, especially in espresso, where they're going to add it to milk or water or something like that. They really like it to be that really dark bitter. And but just drinking it as coffee, I prefer to steer away from that a little bit.
Okay. I was kind of curious because, like, every time I get the extra dark, it just tastes like it's burnt and bitter to me.
Yeah.
Too bitter for my flavor. Yeah.
Completely
George,
agree.
You have a much deeper knowledge of coffee than I knew about. And I'm quite impressed hearing you talk about this.
There was a time in my life where I actually bought unroasted beans and roasted them myself when I was in Chicago.
With like a popcorn popper or something?
I actually had a coffee roaster, but it basically operated like a popcorn popper. And so there was, like I said, there was a time in my life when I definitely did that. To be honest, I stopped because I found good places to get high quality coffee, and getting the beans and roasting them and getting it right each time was just was more trouble than it was worth, especially at the quantities that I was doing it. But yeah, definitely learned a lot doing that.
Nice.
So what's your go-to coffee? Speaking of Chicago, because I'll tell you the coffee that me and Eric used when we were talking earlier was
what was that coffee shop called?
Not Black. Eric, what's that coffee that Brandon used that we use in
was that Dark Matter? Was that a Dark Matter?
Yes. Yeah, it was Dark Matter that we used. So
have you guys
actually,
been to that Dark Matter place that's nearby from Brewworks?
Is that Dark Matter? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not, don't know. The Dark Matter is not by Brewworks. That's 10
you're
drops.
thinking of 10 drops. Yeah, 10 drops.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue. I'll come back to that, but go ahead.
Okay.
But actually, that 10 drops guy, he's a home brewer himself. If you tell him you want to put coffee in your beer, he'll ask you questions like SRM's flavor, OG, this and that, and he won't give you a coffee bean for that, what he thinks is good for what you're doing.
Well, damn, why
Actually,
is he not on here?
We totally could make that happen. No doubt.
I was unprepared. I could have get some Starbucks people. I could have probably got him too. It'd take me a minute, but actually, Jason, you know Eileen from Brew and Grow?
Yeah.
That's her son-in-law.
No
The
kidding.
guy that works at 10 Drops is her son-in-law.
Small world.
Kind of.
Is the 10 drops guy?
Kinda. How are you kind of a son-in-law? No, it's fine.
No,
you don't have to
they're
answer
married.
that.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I don't know if they're married, but they've been together forever. So
Okay, all right.
does that make sense?
Yeah,
to me-
it does.
That'd be a great way to grow this show if we become the gossip corner of the Chicagoland home brewing and coffee making scene.
Oh man.
See, you gotta stir up some controversy. That's what makes things
Right.
grow.
I didn't even mean to go there. It just was like he's kind of a son-in-law. My brain went, "How? No, what?"
All or nothing.
And then I
Oh, that was
explained,
good.
like, okay, that does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've seen both. Actually, Jason, last year they were at FOVAP with me. Like when you came in on the last shift, and I was like getting out of the first shift on Saturday.
Yeah.
They were there with me. It was funny because like
Oh.
I've known her
Okay.
as Eileen's daughter, from Brew and Grow. And like I went up to her, I'm like, "Hey, are you?" She's like, "Hey, Paulie, how are you?" And we were in the sour room, and she obviously we were drinking during our session. She ran into me, and I'm like, I look over, I'm like, "Oh, it's you." She's like, "I can get away with. Could I get away with you?" I'm like, "You're about the only person in this room. I'll let you pick you up. Continue on."
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, if we can, Polly, if you know those guys, if we can do a follow up conversation with him, that would be great.
That would be a long shot, but I can get you people from Starbucks that they know coffee a lot. Like they've given me coffee for my stuff.
Yeah. So you're to go back to your original question before I got distracted with the faux son-in-law thing. Was towards the end, 10 drops was my go-to for getting beans.
Okay.
Ever since I started brewing my own coffee, I never stopped grinding. So I always get whole bean coffee and grind it fresh. And so I would get bags of beans from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
What city is he in?
Is it Brian, right? Is it Brian? Who's the
Sorry?
guy from 10 Drops? Brian?
That sounds right.
Do you remember?
I don't off
I
the
think
top
it's
of my
Brian.
head. Yeah. Sorry, Jason, what was your question?
I was thinking of Dark Matter. Well, I'll just throw it out.
yeah.
What city is Dark Matter in? Does anyone know?
Chicago.
I think it's Chicago.
They're in the city. Okay.
Yeah, like when I went when I got my dark matter for this project I was telling you about with Eric, that I never finished the story. So me and Eric were going to the Great Taste to get ticket for Great Taste of Midwest ticket weekend. We brewed 10 gallons of homebrew and showed up at ticket weekend where we camp in a parking lot of a liquor store or a brewery or whatever just to get tickets to a beer fest.
Mm-hmm.
We show up with a JBG trash can kegerator, and
As you
we
do.
got beer on tap. We had beer on tap for the whole parking lot. And everyone's like, "How did you do this?" I open it up, and they're looking at it and taking notes, and it was just kind of funny. We showed up to a Great Taste ticket weekend with homebrew, and we were sharing it with everybody in the parking lot.
All right.
But that's where we did that coffee beer that I was telling you about with the vanilla beans and the bourbon and all that.
Does
No, I
sound
had
So I
a
never
lot-
finished it.
I had a lot of good feedback on that beer, probably just like you.
Yeah, we should do that again. To be honest with you, I mean, I'll drive.
Is that the one where
go
we kind of like messed with? Is that the one where you kind of messed with
What?
the 1050 clone recipe?
It's exactly what it was. That
Yeah,
1050
that's
clone.
what I thought. Yeah,
It was that 1050 clone that we did. And
So
we
now that
added
I
a little touch to it.
And that's
Yep,
a high,
yep,
that's a
exactly.
high ABV beer right there, the 1050.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure your
Yeah, it
clone
is.
recipe probably was too. So
We had to cut out some of the grain bill because we didn't think we were just going to fit in the mash tun.
yeah, okay, that's a
I
problem.
think it was
that
like
George and I dealt
24.
with,
It was supposed to be like 24, 25 pounds of grain.
Yeah,
Dang.
for a 5-gallon bag.
Yeah.
yeah. Standard equipment quickly falls apart on a grain bill that high.
Oh yeah.
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 So, but honestly, I mean, I feel like that's a good model for a coffee edition because we talked about like the high alcohol beers being better suited for this. You guys had a great framework right there.
And another thing to go into with adding your coffee too, you almost got to sanitize it first before you put it in there.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
had in my
you do risk
in my
the
notes. A
risk
lot of people
infection.
suggested pasteurizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I can
Speaking
see
of that,
That's why
the brewery shirt that I'm wearing right now, they're have you ever heard of Peruvian Morning that Central Waters did? Coffee beer.
No.
They brought it back last year or the year before for the first time in like 4 or 5 years. But back in like 2012 and 2013, they had back-to-back badges that got infected, and at first they couldn't figure out why. And after a couple of years and just like researching around, they finally figured out that their coffee roaster was right next to a bakery. So the yeast was getting through the vent work into the coffee beans. You think they would have figured that out? You know what I mean? That's kind of common sense, in my opinion.
Well, but something you would never discover in a normal coffee drinking cycle because you drink it, too quickly. So, yeah.
True. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Man, that's funny. The things you discover sometimes. Yeah. Jason, speaking of coffee beers, do you remember Hardywood's Christmas Morning?
How could I forget? Only one of the best beers I've ever had. I'm glad you mentioned that because if I had to pick like the best coffee beer I've ever had, that would win by
Christmas
a
morning.
landslide.
Yep. So Eric, this is every year Hardywood in the fall does this beer. It's a gingerbread stout where they
I've heard it. Actually, you know what? I have had that one before. That is
so
very good.
It's
so good.
Really good.
So they do a variant of it where they infuse coffee into it and they call it Christmas Morning. And oh my lord, it is so tasty.
I believe that's the version I had. I have some friends that every year we go try to get up to Central Waters anniversary party, and they release their annual anniversary beer and some other things, and my bottle share is always part of that. And yeah, I remember having that the last time I was up there. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it. I'm not a big ginger fan either, but it was nicely balanced.
Yeah, it works really well in that beer. So, but yeah, that we've talked about coffee beers being basically your porters, your brown ales, your stouts and things, and that's the most common. I will say I have had some fairly impressive and, dare I say, dainty lagers that were infused with coffee as well.
Oh, okay. All right.
Definitely low hop character, so more of your kind of traditional American lager, Pilsner kind of style. And but infused with just a little bit, just a hint of coffee, because you're definitely going to very quickly overpower a lager style beer, hence the dainty. And it played very well. It did overpower the beer flavor a little bit, but not to the point of distraction. So, have you guys seen any like non-dark beer coffee infusions?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Stone IPA had one, or Stone had an IPA with one.
I think I saw a blonde something with the coffee, and I tried it because I was curious, and it was very coffee heavy. So
I find this interesting because the one, I think I brought this up on the last show, but I was in California a number of years ago, and I had a beer called Hop Java, made by a brewery that's near Napa Valley, and it was a coffee-infused pale ale.
Okay. How was that?
It was amazing.
Yeah,
Such a memorable beer. I got to send a message here. Talk amongst yourselves. Just ignore me for a second.
Okay. All right. No problem. Yeah. Yeah.
So
go ahead, Paul.
What about you, Paul? You got a favorite coffee stout?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I have a lot. There's so many of them.
There is, but I can't say I have one favorite. I'm probably going to go back to the most recent one was whatever Hailstorm had. That's why we got that coffee when you and I made that 1050 clone. So that's what brought me on. Oh no, actually no. Now I think about it, I do. It's not a stout. It's a light beer. It was from Will County because they were doing a not Mess with Zohan, bowling movie, Big Lebowski, Chicago Street did a Big Lebowski fest, and Will County came out with like a light coffee beer, and I thought it was amazing. And then I talked to the people, there. I'm like, hey, what coffee do they use? They're like, do you really want me to tell you? I'm like, I do. Yeah, we use the 8 o'clock coffee from Jewel. And it was actually a really goddamn good beer. It wasn't anything like fancy or anything like that, and that's what cracked me up. Yeah, like because it was big. It was a Big Lebowski beer. That was my last favorite coffee beer, and every time they do it, I make sure I go down and get some. Yeah, he's like, I talked to the owner. I was like, yeah, we use 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
I'm not judging him at all.
No, and 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock's a pretty dark roast, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
That.
How about that roast that they use from the Civet Cat poop that they put in who makes that? The McKellar Beer Geek Weasel. You guys ever had that one?
Oh, I've never had that one. No.
Yeah.
I know of
good.
it, but I've never had that. Yeah.
Very smooth coffee flavor. Maybe it's smooth because it came out of rat's butthole, but I don't know.
Well, there is the monkey coffee. Yeah. Have you guys heard of this? There's like down in, I forget where it is, somewhere in Central America, I think. There's the one where the monkeys go up and they pick it off the trees and they eat it, and then it's recovered in their feces.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the monkey coffee. Yeah, it's I don't know. Miss me with that, but I don't need my coffee beans. Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. I'll try it. Oh, here's a new artwork for Blue Island. That lager that we were talking about, the evil and the villain.
Nice.
I thought that was a Thundercats character when I first saw it.
I thought it was the Green Goblin for a second.
No, I thought it was Cobra from G.I. Joe, kind of. And a little bit. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Isn't that great how we all went totally different places there?
Yeah, right?
Oh, man.
Speaking of Cobras, you guys ever get in the Cobra Kai, the extension of the Karate Kid miniseries that was on YouTube?
No,
I started it. I didn't get real far though. It was. I
I
mean,
heard it's coming to Netflix.
yes, I heard that too.
It is. But
Yeah.
you need to see the first 2 seasons to get the 3rd season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got sucked into it. I really did. I got sucked into it because it was I watched a season 2 finale, and I saw what was going on. I'm like, this shit's epic. And then I went back and I saw what went up to there. I'm like, all right, I see where we're going
Okay,
with this.
so hang on. I've always had a problem with the Karate Kid because technically
Oh.
Daniel Russo should have been disqualified. Like, I don't know if we talked about this before, but
It's fake move,
He's-
illegal move.
exactly, he straight booted the dude in the head.
Oh,
Illegal move.
kick to the face?
Illegal move.
Illegal kick to the face.
Hey, well, the guy
Yeah.
didn't get booted for sweeping the leg. Oh, he did get booted for sweeping the leg. That's right.
Why is a crane
did,
kick
yes, that
against
dude-
the rules?
And the funny
But
thing
it's
is
not.
like in the first
It's not, as long as it doesn't connect with the person's head. Because that was one of the rules that the guy said is no striking to the head.
No head. Oh.
And Daniel Russo straight booted that dude in the head.
right in the head, yeah. No, and actually, if you watch this series, the Johnny guy does say, yeah, illegal kick to the head. He does say that. Granted, he swept his leg and took his knee out and all that BS.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of funny because this whole mini series is them 20 years later after the Karate Kid,
Yeah.
and you got
Okay.
Daniel Sung as this successful guy, and you got old Johnny down on his luck. Trey's been doing what he's got to do to survive, and then he opens Cobra Kai back up again, and here comes his old sensei, and it's kind of funny. You really need to watch it if you don't any of it. I mean, it is one of those like maybe a soft spot in my heart because I watched Karate Kid in my 3rd grade class, going on summer vacation. So.
The
wait.
opening scene where they reintroduce both those characters, Daniel and Johnny, is really worth seeing. If you don't get through the series, if you just watch that scene, there's so much to take away from it. Like they pretty much frame it as they haven't seen each other since that fight that Daniel won, and Johnny feels like he got screwed, and just putting that into context, just like everything that's happened in their lives up between then and that point. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite a story.
Okay.
And the rivalry goes on for the whole two seasons too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because I watched both seasons. I'm awaiting season 3 to happen. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
Have they fought each other?
huh?
Oh, no spoilers.
Did those two fight each other?
No spoilers. Yeah.
No, in like season 2, they have fought each other, and both of their kids broke them up. I mean, there's all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Both kids are.
Oh,
I
jeez.
don't even want to get into it now. There's too much to talk about.
That's a big,
You wanna go down a
piece of it too.
I can put you down the Karate Kid, the Cobra Kai rabbit hole right now because I've seen it all.
Oh,
It's
man.
not no Tiger King bullshit, but I can bring you down. I can bring you down the Cobra Kai
Oh,
rabbit hole.
boy.
I'll say this before we before we leave this Karate Kid rabbit hole. I did not see Karate Kid 2 until just a couple years ago. And
That's okay.
wow, no. Like, wow, did I love the Karate Kid one. I geeked out so hard watching that. I loved it. I loved every second of it.
You like seeing Danielson get some, huh?
Yes. If you've not seen Karate Kid 2, check it out. It's well worth it. Skip,
Well, you guys
Oh, that's
Karate
funny.
Kid 3 and 4. I mean, I've seen them all.
Skip Karate Kid 3. It really.
No,
That's where you stop.
the girl that played the next Karate Kid, she was hot, cute little brunette. I can't think of her name.
I did not see that with Jackie Chan as the instructor.
No,
Yep.
that was the new one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's talking about like it was called The Next Karate Kid, and it was Hilary
Yeah,
Swank. And
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It was still with
Look at Dave being like, oh, really?
it was still with what's his name? Why can't I remember his name?
Pat Morita.
Pat Morita.
Pat Morita. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Pat Morita. He was
And
he was the only one in there.
Right.
He was the
And
only kid in there. Yeah.
if you really want some good hilarity surrounding the Karate Kid, there's an episode of Community in the, I think, 4th season where they put on a stage production of the Karate Kid, and the director is, if you ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he plays Adrian Pimento. He plays this like crazed dude all the time. Or in Parks and Rec, he was the perfume guy. I can't remember the name, but anyway, he's this crazed dude, and Chang is playing Pat Morita's character, and it is quite the hilarious episode.
I'll have to find
And
that.
he basically says that the Karate Kid is not about Daniel Russo. It is about
Pat Morita.
wow, yeah, his character. I can't remember. Yeah,
Mr.
I'm
Miyagi.
blanking on Mr. Miyagi. Thank
Miyagi,
you. It's about
Yep.
Mr. Miyagi. Yeah.
Mhm. No, there's a strong point to be made about that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Cobra Kai, you have no idea how many times they mention Mr. Miyagi. Like Daniel-san's dojo is Miyagi Dojo.
Is Miyagi, yeah.
Like he is Miyagi Do, and he even rebuilt that house that Pat Morita had in the first one in these
Painty
TV
fence.
shows. That was his that was their dojo in California instead of being in Okinawa. And the guy got on a little bit more, and they've shown some Easter eggs about going to Okinawa, and there's been talks about Cobra Kai filming out there, with like Karate Kid 2, like Jason was talking about. I mean, I think it's kind of funny that they're bringing this story, 30 years later, and
Full
we're going to
circle?
continue it on. Yeah. For us people that get it, it would be funny because I would love to see the young people like, you've never seen the Karate Kid, but you've seen Cobra Kai. Time out.
Yeah,
We're going to sit down and watch this movie.
Well,
So you
I mean,
can figure it out from there.
it's creating a new audience, for a
Yeah.
new generation. I mean, believe me, those ones that are getting caught up in this series are going backwards and watching the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder
All
if
the
they're
karate.
picking up on the fact that Daniel-san is a cheating cheater.
Illegal kicks in the head, yeah. I know.
We went from
Everybody's like,
we went
trying
from
to walk
coffee
in,
beer
talk
to the
about
Karate
Karate.
Kid.
We did, yes.
Wow.
So,
That's
do we want to get
amazing.
back to? I don't know how we got
No,
there. Do we want to get back to coffee stouts?
I'm in admiration that we somehow found the common ground to link coffee beer with the Karate Kid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's
great.
called a happy hour, not a structured beer discussion.
Yeah, you came here for a structured beer discussion. Chances are you left already.
Yeah, right?
All good.
So I did mention something a few weeks ago. You guys want to tell some homebrewing horror stories? Because I got a couple I would love to tell.
Please.
I
So,
don't have
I'm
it.
gonna go get a refill, but keep talking.
all right. My first one was I was brewing with Brian, and we're brewing. And we had it broke down. One guy's on the inside, one guy's dealing with the kettle. So he's like, all right, I'm caught up. He's like, what's going on? I'm just filling something else, and I'm heating like mash water or something. I was heating sparge water or mash. I'm heating sparge water, and he's like, I'm filling blah blah blah. I'm sanitizing this. It's like, I don't know, half hour later. I'm like, hey man, what's up with that carboy you're filling up? He's like, oh shit. We both went inside, and he's got water flowing through all of his cabinets into the basement, flowing in the basement and all that. And then I decided to call him Poseidon for a few weeks.
Oh man.
No beer involved. Huh?
Yeah. And then there was one time that I was talking about to where I was filling something out, and we had to we had no valves or anything, so I'm trying to dump water. I don't know why I was thinking. I had welding gloves right after the kettle was burning on it. I grabbed it and burned the hell out of my hands.
Oh.
My God.
Yeah, there was one time when, and Jason will be able to attest to this, we were down in my basement chilling beer through an immersion chiller. And it was going fine, and all of a sudden, the line that went from the sink to the immersion chiller...
Oh, yeah.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. The line that went out from the immersion chiller to back to my sink drain broke and busted and just shot boiling hot water out onto my ankle.
Oh.
And that was less than fun. We finished the brew day. And for the next 2 weeks, I was dealing with probably second or third degree burns on my ankle.
Well, you went to the hospital for that.
Probably should have, but I didn't.
Oh. Learn something new every day. Well, here's where that's coming from. I saw George either 1 or 2 days later, and the first thing I saw was his whole ankle is bandaged. So I'm like,
yeah, no, I did that.
Oh,
a lot of triple antibiotic ointment and just wrap the shit out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So,
yeah.
Eric, I'm sure you, Rubber, and Joe got a funny story with a homebrew horror story.
You know what? We don't have too many, but I remember the one time Joe was out of the picture. I don't know if Joe had passed by then or if it was just me and Rubber Brewing, but
yeah,
we were just to the point where there's just about a little bit of cleanup, and he had to go pick up the kids, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll finish cleaning up stuff, and I get everything pretty much cleaned up and spotless, and I go into his fridge, and there's this gallon jug of beer that we had that had just been sitting in there forever, and I'm like, whatever this is, it's gross. Let me just pitch this out. So I go to twist the top off of it. As I go to twist the top off of it, the bottom of the thing just explodes. The bottom of it just goes, glass goes flying everywhere. Glass and beer go flying everywhere, all over me. And I don't know if I flashed my face in my eye. I kind of felt my way over to the sink, washed my face off, and yeah, had to clean up the whole basement floor after just cleaning it.
Ooh, no damage to you though,
no,
flying glass is no
anything,
joke.
thank God.
Okay, yeah. Oh man.
Oh
That's crazy.
yeah.
Well, that just recently happened to Scott too, didn't he? Didn't he say that he had a bottle explode on him, and while he was, I think, cleaning them, and it scratched his arm, but he thought for a second it was a whole lot worse.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. Man, exploding bottles are not fun. It
trying
might be the most obvious statement I've made all day, but
I'm trying to think now. It's certainly I've made more than my share of mistakes brewing, but I can't think of a time I actually got hurt.
Yeah, usually it was me doing the stupid stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Were you hurt more than once? Besides that
hurt once, I can say that.
Oh yeah.
I did get hurt once when I was learning how to brew a phosphor. like there wasn't a connection tight enough. I come walking by. I had waterproof boots on and shorts. It sprayed me right on the side, and it was boiling hot water. I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
And so then Brian was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm more annoyed than hurt." He's like, "Okay, cool." Like I went over and I tightened it up and got it to stop. So, I mean, that's just me being the tradesman. And water leaks, I've had poop. I've had poop drop on me.
Yeah, I bet
It
you
is what
have.
it is. So,
Yeah.
I mean, don't give me. I mean, do not want to get me into a plumbing rabbit hole because I can talk for hours. So not right now.
No, well,
Yeah.
not to encourage you,
Yes.
but I will tell you every time I do something plumbing related around my house, and I talk to my grandfather about it because he's an amateur plumber. Every time I talk to him about it, his very first question is, "How many blowouts did you have?" and yeah, see, you know what I'm talking about. You go through and you're fitting all the joints together, and you forget to glue one, and you turn on the water, and all of a sudden you just have water everywhere because one of the joints.
I remember I was like a third-year apprentice, and I water piped the whole house. I had a little bit of knowledge, and I'm water piping this whole house with another apprentice. I turned the water on. It was like something you would see in a movie. Every joint spraying everywhere. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck? Slam it shut. And then here I am for a day fixing all this shit. I'm like, what did I do? I have no idea.
Every time, man. Every time. Just at least one joint I forget to glue. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You don't do much soldering, do you?
Well, these are all PVC joints. I don't sweat copper
are you
or solder.
PVC or CPVC out there? Is it
CPVC.
PVC or
CPVC?
All right, yeah. Are you doing the one step glue? The yellow stuff?
I did the primer, and then the purple primer, and then I did that. So yeah.
If you do that yellow stuff, you don't even have to prime it.
Better safe than sorry, right? Doesn't hurt anything.
I'm not going to argue that with you. I'm a tradesman. That's what I've done. My house is done that way. I haven't sprung a leak yet in 6 years.
Well,
so I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That's important.
I mean, what you want to take what?
Speaking of, plumbing and stuff, this is that fully assembled thing. This one has line cleaner.
That's a beer line cleaner, right? Yep.
A beer line cleaner, yeah. And so I use that crappy white tape that you hate so much, Polly. But it works, yeah. And I don't have
room on. I mean,
yeah, I don't have any leaks. I cranked it down really good with my wrench, my ratcheting wrench, and it's working real well.
It's not leaking. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I got white stuff in my house, but I prefer other stuff. That's just me being. That's what I do for a living. So
totally understand.
Trust me.
Yep.
I got the white for the house.
Do we want to recap? Do we want to kind of hit the highlights of and kind of summarize the whole coffee conversation real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
First word of advice: go light, not heavy. The range is 2 to 4 days with coffee grounds in secondary for a volume of between 2.5 ounces and 5 ounces. So that's kind of a framework to work with. Choose your volumes accordingly. Choose your timing accordingly. You could do a liquid edition as well outside of grounds edition. George, you want to add a few points on that?
Yeah, just you might want to err on the side of a thicker is the wrong word, but like a more full-bodied. That's what I'm looking for. More full-bodied beer if you're going to do a liquid edition because it will thin the beer out.
Right.
And as such, a lot of times people recommend doing this with a higher final gravity beer, like your milk stouts, your full bodied porters and brown ales, and that way it'll complement the coffee a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from
what
that,
else
my
we
personal recommendation is grab a low acid coffee if you can, and darker roasts tend to work better than light roast.
Well said.
All right.
Think we
Can
hit that
I-
nicely.
Can I brag on myself for a minute?
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Or should I wait till I can wait till Polly gets back?
Sure.
I think you know where I'm going with
I
this.
absolutely know where you're going, and this is
All right,
very
all right.
appropriate. You absolutely have a platform to brag here, sir.
Yeah.
That goes
So-
without saying.
I did mention that I picked up those ingredients. So I will be brewing on Sunday. Saturday is Hannah's birthday, so
Nice.
I feel like that would get me in trouble if I tried to brew on Saturday. But I will be brewing on Sunday, doing
Probably.
doing the shandy.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and
Polly.
Polly. Yeah.
Yes.
Polly's back.
We got news.
So-
I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and I already shared this with Jason and Polly a little bit, but so I mentioned before that I took some of my porter that I made, my first Herm setup porter, and took that over to a local brewery, and they put it on tap over the weekend. Well, I went there early on in this week, and I didn't see it on their menu board, and I was like, well, I was thinking for a second, well, you guys were supposed to put it on tap. Why didn't you? And that kind of thing. And I was a little disappointed. But then he brought out an empty keg and said, yeah, it lasted about half a day. Yeah, apparently. Everybody just came in and just bought the crap out of it. And all 5 gallons were gone in about half a day. So,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
I get,
You're the
yeah,
man,
I
George.
know that feeling. I do. You know, like I was saying, there was a time there was a place that I used to bring my homebrew to, and I remember one time there was an open mic. I brought it up there. The owners were cool with it. I brought two quarty kegs. They were gone in like 2 or 3 hours. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I get it. I totally get that, and it's awesome. It does feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, it
So-
felt so good. Yeah. So, but yeah.
I'm glad.
Apparently, people were coming in with growlers and wanting growler fills on it. And
Did they
they're
really?
like-
I didn't hear
They-
that part.
yeah, they wanted growler fills, but they said no because they didn't. They only had so much. Yeah.
Oh my
but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Congratulations, George.
thank you, sir.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I mean, it's a good feeling, isn't it? Being a
Yeah.
home brewer to be able to do it, and it's like, oh, you feel good about it. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I get
you do. It's like people actually like and it's not friends or relatives or homebrew club that you in the back of your head you're like, do they really like it or are they being nice?
Right.
It's
Right.
yeah. So
it's a general public, exactly.
Yeah.
And I get it.
yeah. So, but yeah.
Well,
that-
awesome.
that-
Congratulations.
yeah.
Well,
Glad to
Thank you,
hear it.
guys.
we'll send off tonight's show and do it as a congrats to you, George, on a very, very nice
Thanks.
accomplishment. One that's well deserved too. All right.
All right.
Before I send this out, any last points we got to touch on?
No, I really am.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We do our webcast every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching us here on a YouTube channel, thank you so much for checking us out. We have a whole archive of episodes here on the channel with various topics ranging from coffee beer to the Karate Kid on each episode. every episode's got their own version of that. So check them out. We do a podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew. available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast from. Check out our website, www.aniceplacetobrew.com, and check us out on all the major social media outlets. All right. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We will see you here on Monday, and we send us off as we do on every show and raise a glass to George for a great accomplishment and an empty keg and an upcoming brew day. And we say it takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.